Good afternoon, everybody. It is now 1:01. If any other committee members come, they can join us. We're going to start with introductions. Let's start down there with Commissioner Turnberg.
Michelle Turnberg, Fargo City Commission.
Dave Pepcorn, City Commission.
Good morning, Mayor. Charlie, I'm right here if you want to find me, okay?
Good. I'll be looking that way all the time. Yeah.
Taylor Snelling, owner Mezzaluna.
Joe Raso, Greater Fargo Moorhead EDC.
Mallory Ackerman, Visit Fargo Moorhead.
Claire Hughes, Clubhouse Hotel and Suites.
Charlie Johnson, Chair, Committee Chair.
Shirley Hughes, Visit Fargo Moorhead.
Kate Ballstead, Southeast Education Cooperative.
Emma McIntyre, Folkways Community Nonprofit.
Jim Gilmore, City Staff.
Kent Kolstad, President at Livewire.
Shannon Full, Fargo Moorhead, West Fargo Chamber.
Eric Johnson, Assistant City Attorney.
Do we have anyone online? I don't think so. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Before we get to the meat of our business today, which is the question and answer period with the third and fourth projects today, we want to have a little time to discuss something that's come up since in the last couple of weeks, both in emails that I have forwarded to you and in public discussion, including in the newspaper, raising questions about what some people see as the significant changes to the downtown proposal, the EAPC proposal for the Civic Quad. I sent you guys a note earlier today saying we would have a vote on this today because I think we need to get everybody on record. Jim Gilmore reminded me, and I certainly understand this, that the four finalists have been approved by the City Commission. So what we vote on today, when I ask you for a motion, will be if you want to recommend something to the full City Commission. We can't obviously make any changes ourselves. We can only recommend that. So the question that has arisen is, to bring people up to speed, some people seem to think that it's the move from the library parking lot to the Civic Center site is significantly drastic enough to either call for giving everyone else a chance to make significant changes or to reopen the whole process or to throw that one out. I feel like we discussed this briefly about 3 weeks ago when this first came up, but that was before they showed us what they wanted to do. But when we first found out that there was a sanitary sewer that was a problem, and we knew they would have to deal with it somehow, so there would be some kind of significant change. We did not have a vote, but I felt the consensus at that time was to move forward with the four we had, because that was right before we took it to the City Commission. And so we did that, and the City Commission unanimously approved all four sites. So, again, we're going to have a discussion. We'll entertain a motion. I'm going to give you my view of this, and then anyone else can weigh in who wants to. I'd be happy to hear from anybody. Agreeing or disagreeing, this is the time to get that out. I definitely feel it would be short-sighted at this point to eliminate one of the four sites from our consideration, since we only have four, and they're all quite different. I understand that the change is fairly significant, but I don't really view it as a site change. Some of you may disagree with that, but it's really still the same site in my mind. It's moving to a different corner, repurposing the Civic Auditorium in some fashion. The original proposal actually connected to the Civic Auditorium, so they were connected. So it's not completely disjointed from it. The other thing is, none of this has been set in stone yet anyway. I mean, we're going through a process that involves people submitting second round proposals. That's why we're having these question and answer periods. It's why we gratefully found out that we should have them all talk to the engineering staff and the city staff. They've all done that now. As a hypothetical, I would throw out this possibility. We didn't find this, but what if the engineers had said to the Fargo Dome, there's something under the D lot that you can't build over? And so then they would say, well, they probably wouldn't bow out, so maybe they would say, well, we'll move it over to the west side. I know, tailgaters would be mad, but this is hypothetical. So we'll move it over to the west side. Then we'd have to throw that one out too? I sort of view it as the same kind of thing. Similar thing could happen at the other sites as well. So I feel like we are looking for, our goal here is to pick the best project for the city, for the community, And I don't know that this would be a good time to start short-circuiting our options for the 4 different sites that we have in front of us. So with that, you know where I stand. I think we should let the process play out and see what happens during the second round of scoring, because we're going to score them again. Mayor Mahoney, I saw you.
Just Charlie, a point of order, and I'll ask Eric to confirm this, but I don't really think we can take a vote. I think the 4 finalists have been chosen. I think the 3 commissioners, it'd be hard for us to vote because we actually voted to have the 4 sites, and we've already weighed in. If you ask us to vote in a public forum right now, in theory, it's a majority of the commission. I don't think we can vote because that would prejudice whatever we do, because if you took a vote and wanted to withdraw them, it'd have to go back to city commission for affirmation, and we'd have to vote at that time to do that. But on a point of order, I value sometimes there's a heat coming out on this particular issue, but they're one of the 4 finalists. I don't know you can take a vote. I think they're part of the 4 people that we're going to have to take. And Eric, I would ask, the city commission identified these 4 sites, and we voted already.
Right, you're absolutely right. The city commission is the determiner of really all things relative, because that's what the ordinance is that city commission approved, that was voted on by the voters. So it is a city commission decision ultimately, and whether or not this body decides to look around and have some conversation about it and make a motion on it or not, and whether you choose to sort of exclude yourself from the vote, it would be a recommendation. I think it's fair to say that at any time this body can say, gee, there's something that came up and we really, it's important. People are spending time and money on developing things, and we'd like some feedback from the decision maker, which is the city commission. I think that's going to be fair anywhere along the line here, and perhaps this is one of those issues, but I think that's up to the committee as to whether you want to take a vote or not.
Charlie,
on it, or whether just kind of read the tea leaves. That's fine too. You've got an RFP process that's laid out. We can talk further about whether the site is a different site or not. Their site was the city quad, so that's maybe a starting point. But in response to the mayor, that's my thoughts about it.
Commissioner?
Just my question is to both Jim and the attorney about is the potential liability from the city, because following the RFP rules, because we've had issues with other properties in the past. Actually, we just went through one where I know we always have potential liabilities, but to me, is this something that we need to be concerned about? And maybe that's a question you can look at and answer later. So go ahead, Jim.
You mean you're afraid someone might sue us? Let's in plain language, right? You're worried someone might sue us over this.
To me, that's it's an open-ended question, but to me, some of the other bidders or something like that, but obviously that can always happen no matter what you do, and so I guess that's my question, Jim.
Thank you.
I'll leave the liability question to the attorneys, but what I intend to do is, put together instructions for these 4 that the city commission have selected. I don't intend to put some restriction in there that says it has to be within 5% of the number of bidding. We want to leave it open, so you'll get 4 new proposals, and then you'll decide which is best. And so, some might like the downtown one less because it's moved, some might like it more. Same thing with all of these. I expect some might be, 10% smaller maybe to meet the budget, or slightly different to meet the budget. We just kind of need to move to the second phase if we're going to get this done, get 4 new proposals, and then rank those as they may be a new hotel partner. This was really the opportunity for all 4 to make your project better. And I don't intend to try to put any restrictions in there because I think that's just counterproductive to get in a really good proposal. I don't know, Eric, if you want to talk about any liability.
Yeah, and those instructions that you're going to draft, this body will comment on, right? And it'll get recommended to the city commission. So relative to what Jim just said, that'll ultimately be placed in front of the city commission in due course here relatively shortly. Now, relative to liability, there, in any bidding situation, any request for proposal situation, there's always a possibility that one of the bidders, so to speak, that didn't win will challenge it for some reason or another, and it's always a possibility. RFPs in particular, as opposed to bidding where it's fairly objective, it's usually just the price and maybe a couple of relevant terms, alternate bids and so forth, but fairly objective. RFPs by nature are going to be a selection process that is a little less objective, and I think the standard generally is just acting not arbitrarily or capriciously, acting in a reasonable manner and coming to the decision. And I think that if the city commission ultimately does that, and this body in making a proper recommendation to the city commission is important too, is quite defendable.
Have you identified anything in the RFP, because I'm guessing you went back and looked at it, that would suggest to you that allowing them to stay in at this point is somehow a violation of something we put in there, that it goes against anything we put in the original RFP?
No, I don't think there's anything that is in opposition to it. I mean, I could identify some arguments that could be made as to, that are being made, but we can talk about that. But no, I don't think there's anything in the RFP that was approved by the city commission in June, I think it was early June, that really would render this situation, could be not qualified to continue. I think it is qualified to continue.
Okay, anyone else would like to comment? I'd love to hear from the rest of the committee as well on this topic. Emma?
I feel confident in carrying this proposal forward into the next round for 3 reasons. And the first is the site is on the same block. The second is it's under the same ownership. And the third is after reviewing the rubric and seeing if there would be a significant difference, if I were to grade it any differently, it didn't have any negative impacts. So I feel confident in moving it forward to the next round.
Okay,
for those 3
thanks.
reasons. Yeah.
Anybody else? Joe?
Yeah, I'd agree with Emma, looking at the criteria that we went through before. I didn't sit down in each one and measure it against my score last time, but I put some notes down and felt that some of the criteria measurement I would have had on this site versus the first would have actually scored higher for me, and made it even a stronger proposal. So, and there are a number of factors in thinking that. I think for me, the biggest kind of component of this entire analysis is also looked at these proposals and what are the assets of our region and how do these proposals play to bring up those assets. And we have, I think, 4 really good projects or opportunities that are tied to 4 really strong tourism and community engagement assets. And that doesn't change with this particular change for the downtown.
Okay. Anyone else?
Charlie,
Shannon?
I might just add, my first concern Commissioner Pepkern brought up was minimizing any risk that there may be to the city. And it appears as though there is minimal, if any, risk in that regard. And then making sure that we continue to maintain the integrity of the process. I think this is the important piece, that as we get into, yes, we have the 4 identified, but as we get into this further, making sure that we don't go too far away from what we originally wanted in the project, from square footage size to budget, to because all of those things would then open up additional risk to the project, to the selection, to the city. So that would just be those were my concerns as we looked at this.
So have they been satisfied, or do you feel we are straying from that?
No, I think they're still satisfied. I think as we get further into it, as Jim had mentioned, there may be smaller, somebody might come in with a smaller square footage size or what, that's where I will be a little concerned, because if we would have had that with the 9 at the beginning, would that have changed anything? So that's the only thing that I
Yeah.
say.
Well, yeah, okay. All right, well, we can't have a vote without a motion, so I'll wait and see if anybody wants to make a vote, or make a motion on a recommendation one way or the other.
Can I ask Charlie, based on what our commissioner said, is a motion needed on this?
The only reason we would need a motion, from my view, would be if we wanted to have the committee on record. I'm less concerned about that now after hearing some of the comments. I just didn't want to be in a situation where somehow or other the chairman decided there was a consensus, but then there really wasn't. I don't, the consensus comes in a vote. So if everybody's comfortable and nobody wants to make a motion, everyone would understand then that if there's no motion, we're moving forward with these 4 as a committee, and we'll make a recommendation from the 4 to the city commission ultimately. Someone can make a motion or not, but if you choose not to make a motion, we don't have a vote, that's my understanding of your lack of action. I don't mean that in a negative way, but.
And Charlie, we can hardly fire you, so I would just say you got a consensus and go.
But you understand what I'm saying. Yeah, this isn't just like 1 or 2 people. This has got to be the consensus of the group. And I would certainly understand, I get what you're saying, if we had a motion and you didn't want to vote, fine. But you'd still know what the committee thought. But if there's no motion, then I assume the committee thinks we should move forward.
I am grateful, though, that you brought it up for public discussion, for us to talk about based on just community and some of the things that you sent over. I think it was a good conversation for us to have. I know Commissioner Turnberg mentioned, I think early on in the process, that us talking about things is good for others to see where we sit on certain concerns. So I appreciate the opportunity to have talked about it.
Yeah, there's no way we weren't going to. So. Any further discussion of any kind? Okay. Let's invite our friends from RLE and the Fargo Dome up. Take your seats. Thank you for patiently waiting for us. I was looking at you, but you were looking away. Okay. Okay, we've already introduced ourselves, so I think you know who we are. We don't have name tags, I'm sorry, but we would like you guys to introduce yourselves. Whoever is the leader here, is that going to be you, Mr. Supas?
Yes, and just a little quick business here is I came, because it's Halloween, I came up dressed as the Fargo Dome president today, so. David Supas, the Fargo Dome.
Rick Steen, Fargo Dome.
Rich Wimkin, RLE.
Rob Sobolik, Fargo Dome City, Fargo.
David Cook, North Dakota State University.
We're going to have some questions for you folks, but we would love to let you add any kind of opening statement you want. We're not necessarily looking for a new presentation. We've seen that, but we do have things up to refer to. So if there's anything you want to start with, go ahead.
Sure. From the standpoint of how we will handle questions on this end is Rick and I will handle questions with respect to the Fargo Dome financial side. President Cook, obviously representing NDSU. Rich, RLE, will be handling questions, any questions that come on programming, and then Rob will be handling any questions on the operations side. Couple comments before we get into the Q&A side. Thank you to the selection committee. I mean, you guys have been thoughtful, transparent in this whole process, doing an excellent job, evidenced by that last discussion. You guys had an item thrown in front of you that you had to deal with, and you did it in the public and the open, so very well done. Another item that we wanted to address in opening comments is it has been discussed out there that our project, I guess it was in the paper, that our project is 66,000 square feet. That is not correct. Our entire project, the convention center, is 110,000 square feet, and there is some potential additions that would make it even bigger than that. So we just want to set the tone that our project is 110,000 square feet, not 66,000 feet. So those would be the opening comments. Just scored in memory that our convention center is 110,000 square feet that we have are presenting.
Sure. So as long as you brought that up, let me ask you about that. So you're including in that, obviously, there's the 50,000 square foot room, dividable room. What else are you using to get to the 110,000 square feet? Because there are no new breakout rooms in your plan, or am I wrong about that?
Yes and no. So currently, as submitted, there's the 50,000 square feet of ballroom space. There's 40,000, square feet of the pre-function area, and part of that is broken off into the the Fargo Dome space, so that we took off of there. But then we have the 7,000 square feet of kitchen, there's, 10,000 square feet of mechanical room, and then other circulation in there. So if you look in the submittal that we submitted, there's a whole table, and some of it, I think, were confusion. There was some language that there's 66,000 square feet of meeting room space that was maybe pulled out, as opposed to 66,000 square feet of building space. So, and there's a list of all the spaces that are in the building that are listed in that submittal, so they're on the chart.
Right. So, but to be clear, and I just want to make sure we're clear about this. There are that 66,000 square feet, the only new meeting room space in your proposal is the big room, right? The 50?
Yeah, so so this is overall.
Yeah, every one of the projects that's been posted talks about the total square foot of the project.
Right.
And we just want to be clear, is what we're doing here is making sure that the total square foot of the convention center project, ignoring any space that we've added on the dome, is 110,000 square feet, not 60. Every other one of the projects is included their total square foot, including their storage, their kitchen, their circulation space. The Fargo Dome is 110,000 square feet without any square footage related to the Fargo Dome itself. So the convention center itself, 110,000. I think maybe what happened on this is there's 2 pages when he talks about the project. I don't have it behind it, but page 2 had the rest of the space. Page 1 just identified the convention. This is in that original proposal, the actual ballroom space, and I think some of the meeting room space, that type of thing, but there's a second page that included the rest of the space. So I think that was missed somewhere along the line.
Okay. Well, looking at this drawing here, I see, so the pink is meeting room space, so are those
So the
three?
conference center, the light pink area, that's 50,000.
Yes, and then up above the pre-function lobby there, around the corner are there 3 more rooms there?
So what we've, since there's been comments about from the committee and some different comments that we saw, that they felt that the meeting rooms in the existing Fargo Dome were too far apart or to get to. So we added 3 meeting rooms on this level. And then actually on the second level, we've added additional. So there's over 8,000 square feet of meeting room space in addition to the 50,000 square feet that is right across the hall from the existing space.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. So you added that since the initial?
Since the initial.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So
All right,
it's
thank you.
within the same space that we had.
Yeah.
But it crosses over.
Just repurpose some of the space that we had.
Gotcha.
That's on the main floor.
All right. That's what I was asking.
Yep. And then so part of that other additional space, if you look at the tan space that wraps around in the pre-function space, that's in addition to the 50,000. And then the kitchen space is in addition to that.
Right.
Part of the loading, pre-function, green room space, other places, storages, and then access corridors.
Yeah.
That would be in addition to
Yeah,
that.
no, we understand that, absolutely. But so the pie-shaped rooms, that would be 2 levels of those to get to the 8,000 square feet? They're like
Yes.
4,000 on each level then?
So
Right
then
there?
on the
Yeah.
on the second level would be that.
Okay,
And then we took a look at, with some of the concern about connection to the hotel and conference, that piece, we moved that connection piece so we can still connect to the shack and down on the south side, but we moved that right directly off of that lobby, so it goes from the hotel lobby to this main knuckle lobby.
because previously you had it on the south side.
On the south side, right.
Thank
So it was a continuation and would continue on to the shack from that point. That can still happen in going off of the south side.
Okay, all right.
So,
good.
Rich,
Commissioner?
Just a couple questions. First of all, so the skyway that connecting the dome to the hotel, that's included in the?
Correct.
But the potential skyway between the hotel and the shack, that will be a separate thing? Is that what or would that?
That would be part of that development and down in the future.
Okay, and so I have a question about, one of the concerns is if you have, let's say, the NDSU football game tomorrow, you're obviously not going to have a large convention. And what I think would be good to do is talk about scheduling and how that would work with the CVB and how, obviously, you know when the Bison are playing at home or when you're having a large concert. And if you could just talk a little bit how you would do that, if you don't mind. Thank you.
We'll let you know when we figure it out. You know, it's, I think most of us in the room have attended conventions. Most of us in the room have attended conventions Sunday to Friday. There could be a load-in on a Saturday, a different thing, and there could be a convention on a Saturday, but that's all part of booking. And so, you know, on the sheet was questions, what's the relationship? And so as part of the operations of this facility, like, you know, not as much as we do now because of the type of building that's being operated, but we would be, of some of the staff that would be added on a sales marketing side, a sales and marketing person on an entertainment facility is a much different role than a sales and marketing position on a convention side. So my experience on the convention side, sales and marketing is actually somebody who is marketing the facility and takes an event from conception of when it comes through the end of that event and plans and has it. So they are working, those positions are working hand in hand with a Visit Fargo Moorhead staff or any destination marketing or CVB staff that is out marketing. The Visit Fargo Moorheads is, Mallory surprised me. Her out of office said she's out until on Monday at an industry trade show. They go to the industry trade shows, all of them. The management staff, whether it's at the Fargo Dome site or whatever, would go to some of those. It's really the bigger ones that they would go to, or through the conversations that are happening on a daily and weekly basis with the two teams. Say, for instance, historically, I have gone out to Bismarck with the Visit Fargo Moorhead team to conventions or industry conferences that have been out there to convince, hey, Fargo is the place to go to. So as it's booked, as we've spoke before, 18 months, 2 years and out, that is really Visit Fargo Moorhead and Fargo Dome management team working together to book those events.
But my question is, Rob, so to give you an example, you know years ahead of time the Bison games, right? But I guess my question is, so then, but the Dome is busy all, you know, I mean, the number of days, it's busy, but if you can talk about like the CVB, you know, like if you get some of these conventions, you will know years ahead of time, but the whole blocking off, that's the thing that if you could show how that's going to work, because to me, that's a question. How are these going to work together if this site is selected? Does that make sense?
Well, can we start with a question about how far in advance, maybe President Cook can answer this, how far in advance is the football schedule set? I mean, I feel like there are some changes that get made to it like within a year, but I think basically it's set at least a couple years ahead?
Yeah, that's correct. 3 years out. Every now and again, there might be some change in schedule, but that's probably more about the team playing than the day or time. I mean, in terms of, you know, we might have a team for some reason not come and play us 2 years from now. That might change, but then we would just replace that with somebody else versus changing the date and time.
And just to piggyback on Commissioner Pepcorn, I think, Rob, you're right. Traditionally, a lot of things happen, move-in Saturday, start on Sunday. There's a lot of move-in on Saturdays, you start on a Sunday night. We also are looking at this facility to be multifunctional, so again, maybe we will have something that's not a traditional convention in it, that might have a different schedule than a traditional association or some other thing. So I think the flexibility of that, and obviously we can't get into the details of how we would intimately work together. I want to understand that definitely in the second part of the RFP. That's where I think we can get into the details of it, but, you know, to your point, that is a concern, is, you know, what I love about this is the contiguous space, if I can say that right. What makes me nervous is some of those other things from a booking out. We will be looking at booking things 30, 31 by the time that this shovel goes in the ground. So hopefully we have time to manage that, but there are things that happen. So I think that's a great question, you read my mind. But, you know, we can get into the details of that, but there is good to know President Cook on how that is all put together, and we can dig
And
into
we do it now. We've had concerts where we've had wedding receptions up in the 10,000 square foot meeting space. We have, well, on a much smaller scale, but we have voting up in the meeting rooms while high school football or other events are going on.
Yeah, well, I
Traffic
think-
coming in and out. So it's all manageable. And honestly, the farther out you know, the more you can plan. So I think it's important to say that, no, it is not assumed that just because there's an NDSU football day booked, one of the 6 to 9 that happened, that we're not going to be able to book into the conference space.
That's really what I think what we're all trying to get at here. So, and especially, it makes me feel better to see that the extra breakout rooms there, so they are right there. But my question then to you, Rob, as the GM of the space is, are you comfortable saying you could have a football game even if there was a conference going on in that space as long as it was contained to that space?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Now, is it a 100%? There's 40 different questions to get into the minutia of all of that.
I'm not asking those questions.
Truly ask that, but the bottom line is absolutely. We would anticipate it. We do it already, whether it's just the meeting room space versus events in the building.
Okay.
Do you mind, if I, just
President Cook?
a comment here too. So I absolutely appreciate the questions and potentially some concerns with that. As I think about it, is when you talk to our fans a little bit here too, is there's a plus here, or a positive, or a real possibility when it comes to tailgating in November, tailgating in December. We usually are playing at that time. You know, outside is difficult, and thinking about this venue as an additional opportunity for fans to enjoy and probably rent out the space too. So just want to throw that out there as, you know, a different way of looking at it. We play the Summit League basketball tournament down in Sioux Falls. They have a convention center there where that is where the teams gather, where the fans get together inside in a convention center as they're planning to watch basketball. And it's kind of hard to not consider that could happen in football. Somebody might be willing to go out there in November when they might not, you know, be able to go outside. So there could be some potential revenue there too.
Just to add one more thing, fall is a very busy time for meetings and conventions. So it is that colliding of times there as well. Obviously, there's a million things that we can go after from a sales perspective for this venue, and obviously we want to do it year-round. But just as we continue to talk about, again, is into the second part of this RFP, just the other thing to think about, the busy season for those events.
Yeah, and this is really crucial because, you know, Mallory's predecessor once asked me, if you can't get more meeting space, could you get me an extra September and October? So that's kind of the way it goes, you know, that's really that and then in the springtime again. I don't know if I feel better about what you said, President Cook, that you might want to use it for tailgating in November, because that shuts off more possibility to do what we're talking about separately from the game.
I think part of that too is let's be realistic. And yes, they are very busy. We will know many years out what's going to happen. I think another point to that is if, I applaud the ambitiousness, but no facility, well, maybe in LA, so I guess I shouldn't say none. Very few facilities are busy every single weekend or every single weekday. So the good thing is that knowing this 2, 3, 4 years out, if it's a weekend where nothing is happening and it happens to be an NDSU football game, there's still activity and revenue being generated with people coming from outside of the community and creating that economic impact, and we're utilizing the facility. Now maybe it's just for an existing tenant.
Yeah, we get it. I mean, so far, this is okay. I think we're okay. Your answers are good. Mayor.
So I think, Rob, the real question is you have anywhere from 6 to 9 weekends, you have Bison football, and President Cook, we're in the playoffs this year, right? Okay. But if I looked at another convention center, if I picked the Fargo Dome, am I giving up 9 weekends?
Say that again?
Well, what Dave is asking, you have a football game on Saturday. Are you going to be able to double book? Are you going to be able to have a conference Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Or do I have to give up 9 weekends because you have a football game?
I feel confident that it can be worked out that you would not be giving up 9 weekends, no.
Okay, I want to, you're competing against 3 other developers, and to me, are you going to be able to take the heat and get the stuff in this convention center, or are we going to be handicapped a little bit because of Bison football?
I don't feel that that's a insurmountable handicap, if that's the way.
Joe, I think I skipped you earlier. You had a question before we moved past it? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, maybe just to say, as we advance to the next phase of this, it might be advantageous to see some of that scenario planning. If we had X amount of people for a convention at the same time that there is a game or a concert, what would the implications of that be? So even if there was a way to map out some of that scenario planning, just to assure some of us as committee members that is manageable and workable, that might be helpful. I think that's a big concern of many, so I think that would help at least for me, that would be very helpful.
Well, and to Shannon's question, I mean, I made an assumption, I'll just ask, is I assume all 4 of these finalists will be working with Visit Fargo Moorhead, talking through these, sharing the scenario, sharing your needs and theirs. And as a committee member, I would then lean to you to ask that question. Do you feel comfortable based on their responses, given this is your space?
Absolutely, and I think to Shannon's point, showing examples of that and, again, outlining in further detail what those operational and sales and marketing joint pieces look like. Important for us, again, this is being built on lodging tax, and, we bring visitors to town. That is our mission as an organization. And also the experience of, and I'm pointing to her, 'cause she's a meeting planner, the experience of the meeting planner and the actual visitors that are coming to experience this facility in our community. So working all that out, I think, in the second phase is super important to make a decision. And everybody knows I don't get to vote, but being the new leader of our organization, so that's important, I think, to be laid out even further in the next round.
Absolutely, I would agree, and I think it's fantastic, and yes, that is what you do, and that's the best thing about, or one of the great things about Fargo Dome is that's also our mission, is to bring visitors to town and have the different events. Yes, obviously, it's very important with NDSU football, and they're an absolutely fabulous tenant, but sorry, I meant partner. But they account currently for 20 to 30% of our event days in attendance. And so we work with a lot of different organizations and bringing in to have the out of town. So it is all hand in hand at the same
And we're
time.
not just asking you folks this. I mean, this is important to whatever, any one of the 4 is going to, the whole idea is to bring people to town. It's the whole idea to bring people to town and give them an experience that'll make them want to come back. And I know you have a question, Em, I'll be right with you, but this also applies, this whole thing about the scheduling thing would also apply to a hotel, which you guys would have to work out down the road. I mean, if you know you're booking a conference that far out, we're going to want to have room blocks for the people who are coming for the conference, so you might have to anticipate some of your, football fans are going to be disappointed they might not be able to get into that hotel. So that's just, there's a whole bunch of give and take that comes into play. Am I right about this?
Yeah, because that's oftentimes requirements for meeting planners as well, is the proximity of those rooms, so, in a certain service hotel.
Emma?
I was just going to say that the 2 things I'm excited for your team to see are the timeline of a football game versus a conference. They have 2 very different schedules. So how that'll map out based on Shannon's feedback. And then NDSU Bison football. I mean, I didn't go to NDSU, but I think there's a lot of energy there, and I think there's a lot of energy to showcase for our community and what that feels like. And it could be fun to pair a conference along with that. So.
Oh, 2 commissioners left. Who do we got? I think we'll go with the mayor first.
Go ahead. Do you mind if I go first? So changing topics a little bit. So can you talk a little bit about the hotels? We've had conversations, there's different levels, and obviously we can have whatever level we want, but give me your perspective on what level, and then also to combine that with the food service. Right now you have that at the Fargo Dome. Will that food service be available at the hotels? If you talk a little bit about that, thanks.
Yeah, what we've looked at is food service being at both the primary of the convention center would be the food service providing for the convention center, Fargo Dome, or combinations of those. The hotel would be food available there, and so there's bar, restaurant food available at the hotel.
But would it be separate? So
Separate,
okay.
so that it's going to be available so that to hotel customers separate, but not that it would be, you know, you're not going to be competing with each other, they're going to be complementing each other. So the heavy lifting of the conference center stuff would be by the conference center kitchen, but then the hotel would have meals available. And then in complement to that is looking at the development of the food and beverage entertainment area to give more opportunities for more choices for those goers of.
Can you talk a little bit about the levels? And Rob, we've talked about this. There's, you know, there's premium hotels. Can you talk about what level you see as being the best fit for this area?
So looking at that is a select service, up service, you know, higher level, but not the complete full service. And part of that is looking at the economics of supporting and all the hotel groups that we've talked to. And there's some, you know, we have in their interest is to providing that there's food service, but the cost per key is a exponential amount more and compared to that select service.
So can I
compared to the
ask,
full-
Rich, so you're basically basing this on the economics of if you have, it's going to be a lot more expensive and you don't really feel that is sustainable? Is that kind of, if we went to the most?
If you went to the full service in that, typically it's been listed as if you like to provide a project that you'll never get a return on,
Right.
it will never be supported, is the economic, you know, platforms that we've got and generated back to us from hotel companies. And just looking at this market and scale of market, we're not LA. You're not, you know, providing that. And then with the number of hotels that are in the market currently, so still giving that opportunity.
Can I, one more, and then, I'm sorry, Mayor. Go ahead. One more, and this is more for President Cook, because to me, that area next to the hotel, that's a little bit like Green Bay, where they have an area where people come, and that's not just during game day, that could be students during the week, and that's a very exciting thing to me. Then on top of that, to me, the challenge is, that's NDSU land, but these are private businesses, and to me, if you could talk a little bit about how that will work, thank you.
Yeah, so just like the Fargo Dome, it's going to be our land, so we'd work toward some kind of land lease arrangement and looking with the Fargo Dome, partnering with them on, you know, looking at an RFP to combine the hotel and that kind of entertainment district. So we've already hired a consultant to look at the dollars and get a sense of how that would all work, and then the plan is to move forward with an RFP together to combine it all. But as far as you know, having that kind of a district right there north of campus, that's a pretty common and growing experience that universities are doing. You could probably think about ones that you all know. This is kind of the direction a lot of universities have already gone. Think University of Minnesota, Dinkytown, that kind of concept. So we're excited about what it can mean for our students and for our campus. We're excited about what it could do for North Fargo. We have a whole new area just right across the street there, what we call University Village, that we're kind of in the process of redeveloping. Our research tech park, recently renamed Endeavor, is kind of right on the front end of really booming right now. They received quite a bit of an investment from the state because of the vision and what's happening there. So we're seeing more industry kind of coming right there because the future of higher ed is just that, working business and industry. So I see it as a real complement to where we're at now, but where we really want to go. And again, it's going back to a land lease arrangement that the financial consultant's going to help us figure out, you know, on down the road. But it's not unlike we already have one with the Fargo Dome, and so it's an arrangement we're very comfortable with.
Just one more thing, sorry, Charlie. The other thing, if you don't mind, there also is the potential of a new wrestling center, literally right across the street. That's additional square footage.
Right.
The other thing, if you combine, to me, this is synergy, and if we combine our efforts with the city of Fargo and North Dakota State, and the Fargo Dome has $47 million in the bank, we have $40 million to commit on this. That's a little bit scary. I'm a little bit It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but the potential is there to combine all these spaces and to work together. It could be very, very impressive. So, and thank you for being here, Mr. President. I know you're a busy guy, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I heard a lot of references to across the street. What street are you talking about?
Oh, on the other side of University. What I was referring to, University Village is where we're redoing a lot of our residence halls and apartments.
So you're not talking about across 19th Avenue?
No, I am not. I'm talking about
Because I'm
to
under the
east.
understanding that can't be
Yeah.
redeveloped because
Right.
NDSCS owns that, right?
I'm talking about to the east.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
He ran out of time, yeah.
Okay.
By the way,
Dave,
I
I
was counting,
remind
that
you,
was,
you already have your degree, so you don't have to butter up the president.
that was six.
There's always
and one more
honorary
thing.
degrees we can talk about now.
Hey, it's an open forum. Other questions? I've got some here that we brought with us. We already talked about the hotel, so the NDSU is the lead partner in securing the hotel. Is that correct? Do I understand it? Yep.
The way we're set up for respect to the hotel and the entertainment district, it'll be RLE, Fargo Dome Authority, FDA, and NDSU. Think of it as a triangle. Those three parties working together to put the RFP together with respect to the hotel and the entertainment district.
And you've heard my basic question before, but you'd be disappointed if I didn't throw it at you again, that, the timely development of the hotel especially, but also the entertainment district. What, make us feel good about that.
Well,
Please.
we are literally, there's work to be done in terms of the selection committee, but literally RLE, FDA, and NDSU are one RFP and one amendment away from moving.
Okay.
That's how close we are. And we've met for the last 2 or 3 weeks. All these parties have gotten together and discussed all the issues, and we've kind of come in line with what we need to do and have concluded we're literally one RFP, one amendment away from moving this along.
Okay, so Commissioner Pepcorn kind of brought this up. How do you see this project helping accomplish other improvements needed at the facility? But I guess at that point, we're starting to talk about that surplus again. We don't necessarily see any use of the surplus in these drawings, do we?
Well, so we don't want to dive too deep into the numbers, but the project at 110,000 square feet is a mid $40-ish million project. So that's light of what the budget is. We are looking at that from the FDA standpoint as contributing, closing that gap. There are 3 things that are in this project here that are mutual benefit to the Fargo Dome and to the convention center that we're seriously considering contributing from the permanent fund to get that, to get those done. So we're not entirely through that process yet, but we, as Dave mentioned, the $40 million to the convention center, our $47 million from the permanent fund, we see an opportunity to do some things that would be mutually benefit to both the Dome and the convention center.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Charlie?
Yeah.
Is this going to be in a future meeting, talking about, obviously, the management is going to change and the staffing levels, are you going to talk about the budget and things like that? Because obviously, you're going to have more staff when you have more square footage. And with the management, would it be different, or would it stay the same as it is now?
Well, everybody that works at Fargo Dome right now, with the exception of one person, is a full-time employee or employee of the city of Fargo. So that's a decision to have forward that we would have with city leadership and the Fargo Dome Authority. But as we presented in our initial presentation, it is the thought that it would continue to be internally managed, but with those additional staff, you would be hiring more convention center, conference center focused individuals versus entertainment facility on the administration, booking, sales and marketing side of things. On the operations side of things, it's what they're doing right now, setting meeting rooms, setting rooms, doing that just on a smaller scale into the conference center. So there's that, but there's also conversations that you could have as far as what the form is, but those would be decisions that would be made with the city commission and Fargo Dome Authority.
But let me ask you, Rob, don't you anticipate you're going to need more, it's a bigger building, you're going to need more?
We absolutely will need, we built into the performers that we've done, that we've worked with HVS since 2014 on, and looking at these different things. In the last iterations, when we went through the 2023 vote, the 24 vote, we had financials built out to, I believe, 2030, using that and adding the staff, the appropriate levels of staff, and going through there.
But to me, that's what I want to see you budget, show us in the budget what the additional, where the employees are. And to me, the management, especially to work with the CVB, that's different than it is now. Or I mean, I anticipate it would be some type of different thing.
It'd be enhanced.
Okay, but anyway, to me, to know what the costs are and if this is built, what it would look like for staffing, that's the thing we're kind of looking for.
If I may, Rob. So you're speaking to that, Dave, we have, as Rob mentioned, we have the advantage of, we have an HVS study that's done as the combined entity that was finished in November of 2023, 2 years ago. So we've got that, and it basically contemplated this project. And so we know we've put a lot of time and effort prior to this iteration of the project to say, how much is this going to cost to manage this project? How much does it cost to run the convention center and the dome together? And we've got that. We're basically just engaged a consultant to update that for us. It's not HVS, of course, but we've engaged another consultant to update that using updated information, updated costs, updated project costs, updated staffing costs. We're in that process already, trying to get that done, but no one else is, can be that far ahead. So we're trying to pace ourselves. We don't want to spend a lot of money and then not be the award of the project. Part of that too is the project cost itself, and I'm going to want to get this out there and hopefully not stepping up. You've had different consultants here talking about what the cost of that project is, and you've got anywhere from $500 to $600 per foot, and you have reputable consultants telling what that's going to cost, and it's true. And the project itself is funded through about $40 million. $40 million doesn't come close to the cost that's actually being talked about. When this project was prepared, when we looked at it back in '23, a lot of things involved with having it at the Fargo Dome are not included with some of the other sites. We have existing land, existing parking, existing infrastructure. We have an existing fourth wall that's already there that's going to be used in the project. And so when we talk about mid-40s, we're talking a little different financial cost in most of these other projects. And we've gone through that iteration with RLE, how much it's going to cost, what's it going to cost, that type of thing. So on the financial side, Dave, we're quite a ways down the road as far as finding out what this is going to cost us. I think it's important to note that the cost of the project, the structure of that cost is going to be completely different than any of the other projects you're looking at. It's not a build from scratch. It's not land available. It's land that's existing, infrastructure that's existing, wall that's existing, and staff that's existing as well. We don't need to double up the leadership staff, the site staff. We need to add to it, but we don't need to double up all the different levels of staff in that environment.
Okay, thanks. Jim?
The city is planning to have the second round of the proposals due January 30th. Does that give you sufficient time to get a good proposal to us by that date, given your timeline on the hotel?
I would say yes. I don't see why I wouldn't. We've got a sufficient amount of time, as much as anybody else does, correct? Yeah. And we've got a basis, already historic basis of what these costs would be for us to run this. And we're working with the city of Fargo, obviously, in the financing. We've got some ideas on that as well. We know what that's going to be. We've got some other thoughts on that too, but I think the every intention is, well, we'll have the financials prepared. In fact, we've got the consultant starting already.
Okay, we've asked every other project this too, so are you looking at any other incentives from the city in order to complete this project?
Sure, I'll take that one. We know what the city has told every participant, that this is the city, here's how much you're gonna get from the bond issue. It's the $40 million or thereabouts, that type of thing. So that's what we have to plan for. The other piece of this, though, is that the incentives would be typically left up to the developer. And we're assuming that, being that we have a private developer looking at developing the entire section of the hotel and the entertainment center, that they may go to the city of Fargo and ask for what type of incentives, tax incentives can we get here? It's undeveloped property. The undeveloped property should be eligible for a TIF, to put development on it. I think I read the state regs on that, Jim, right? Well, that's what the state regs said, maybe not as Fargo.
I think what would be eligible would be like a payment in lieu of taxes that can be provided. You know, we can't really call this a blighted area for a TIF, but that'd be a property tax exemption of up to 20
Yeah.
years. I guess
Some
our
type-
committee
some-
that Dave chairs would be the one.
Some type of
discussing.
tax incentive financing arrangement. I'm not saying it's a TIF district, but some type of, but that's up to the developer. The NDSU is not going to be asking for it. The Fargo Dome is not going to be asking for it. It's up to the developer, and we don't have a developer in place because we don't have a project awarded, but we do have interest from one developer, at least, that says they want to do the whole project. They want to meet with us already. We said we can't do that yet because we're not awarded the project.
So,
Joe?
just for clarity, the decision by the developer to come to the city, I think this, and I don't want to speak for everybody, so I'm throwing it out, I think there's a sense that the committee would understand what is being asked from the participants before this committee would make a recommendation to the council. So Rick, just for clarity, are you saying that the developer is going to be able to share as a member of this team with this committee in February what that expectation in that partnership is?
I'm going to say yes, because we're already developing the RFP. We've got an unsolicited interest by a national developer that wants to develop the entire hotel and entertainment area. We can't jump that far. One, we're a city-owned entity. We have to go out for RFPs on this thing. We just can't go ahead and hire them. But we've already got one involved. We're in the process, as Dr. Cook mentioned, and Dave mentioned, it's going to be a joint RFP. All three members are involved with this. Everyone's going to have input, and we're going to get that RFP out sooner than later. But so I would say yes, because that's the intent. We don't have much to offer unless we have some answers back by then. And I know that one of the questions was, what's the timing of this? I think there's some discussion here that project, depending on construction pieces, may be started before the convention center itself.
But I don't think that, to the question of any incentives, from our side, when we sit down and rough in our RFP, I mean, that's a question we're going to ask too, is for the developers, are you going to be looking for that? Because it's no secret that that's a question to be asked and to be answered.
So I'm going to go back to Joe's question. I think just to put a point on it, sorry. The idea would be that you can tell us in phase 2 or in the second part of the RFP that we would have a letter of intent potentially with the developer saying we will move forward with this if you're awarded. Because I guess I worry about, now we have to go land that after we get it awarded. And that pushes I know you say it could happen earlier, appreciate that, but that could push, is that what you're trying to get at, Joe, a little bit? That could push the development of that bit of it out farther than at the same time. May not take as long to build that either, is it with the convention center? It sort of all depends on the build-out phase as well. But I guess that's how I see it, that you'd maybe come with, we have a letter of intent from a developer who says if you're awarded this, we're ready to go. That would be, don't have to answer that now, but that's, I guess, what I would sort of.
Yeah, that would be ideal to have that letter of intent to present that. I mean,
Can I just say, I think part of the reason, at least for my question, is that in the review and some of the discussions that have taken place, I think one of the challenges is the amenities around that support, where maybe some of the other projects have had a history, like a downtown, for example, with hotels and restaurants and other things. And so, I'll just speak for myself. I think it's really important that there's a commitment that the entertainment district, the hotel, and all those pieces are joining side by side so that we get what I think the citizens are wanting, or at least the CVB wants, to make sure that that experience for that user is such that it really represents what this community has to offer.
Yeah, and Rick keyed on it is unsolicited. We had a national builder developer knocking on our door asking for meetings to investigate this. And we're like, well, we're just going to get through the Q&A session first and wait for the RFP, the second phase to come out here, and then we can have that. So from our vantage point, that was really exciting. Like, really exciting that somebody came to us and said, yeah, we can fulfill this need. Really advanced our interest in the hotel and the entertainment district.
Okay, we've gone through pretty much all the questions I have from the shared document. So anybody else have anything else they'd like to ask this team before we move on?
I've got a question for Jim.
Can you turn on your mic? Yep.
I've got a question for Jim, if I could. We got started 20 minutes late, so maybe we got a little room here. Jim,
Yeah, we do. Yeah, that's fine, but if we're out of questions, we're out of questions.
I'm not yet.
Yeah, okay.
Jim, I mean, I know you've talked and referred to the fact that some type of tax financing incentives. Maybe just some clarity for this whole group from you. What would be available to a developer developing on land that's going to be leased and taxed from the university? It'd be similar to the park, the tech park you've got going on. So what would be the incentives available? I'm curious what that would be.
I mean, I think what the developer will likely look for is some type of property tax exemption, and the city can, under this payment in lieu of taxes law, allow really any commercial enterprise to be eligible for up to a 20-year property tax exemption. I don't know, Eric, if it's on leased property, if that's any different, but certainly there's because they're leasing it from you, your land's not taxable, that's the state land, but there's probably a leasehold interest that would be taxable. Right. And certainly the bricks and mortar are going to be taxable.
Right. That was my understanding.
Correct.
Okay. All right, just make sure, yeah.
Okay, what else you got?
Well, we're pleased to report we had the planning committee, and the only two items that came up that were discussed were...
Your mic.
Mike. Forgive me. We had met with the planning committee on Tuesday, and the discussion was narrowed down to water retention and fire access, which were easily discussed. So there's no, we walked away from it with no issue from planning with respect to our lot.
I appreciate you guys reworking the meeting rooms. I think that was the only thing that stood out to me in my grading. And I think that the solution of what you proposed is very functional. I think I'm looking at my notes right now, I was like, pre-function space, too big, question mark. And I think this is a good use of that space. So appreciate you going back and reworking that. I think it looks nice.
Yeah, because, Rick, we want you to have that 15 minutes. I'll ask a couple questions. And it's the same two questions that we asked at the end of the last week, which is, share with us what you feel are the couple challenges that you're facing, and also, why you? What are the strengths there?
It kind of feels like speed dating. The challenge is, the challenge is, we had this discussion. The challenge that we see is there's a perception of the Fargo Dome that has to do with parking and traffic. That seems to be a theme that has come up in these meetings when the Fargo Dome is discussed. We're coming to the committee with, if this goes through 3,100 parking spots and then recovering some other parking spots in different areas. The traffic issue has been brought up. The traffic is a traffic issue. If you have a large volume of people, you can only displace them so quickly. So those are, we think, are misconceptions that we have plenty of parking. And the traffic issue, it doesn't matter where it goes. When you have to release everybody in a short while, it's just going to get congested. So those are to answer your question, what are the challenges? It's the perception that people have is that, they're giving up foreign parking spots to do this down in the southeast corner and not realizing that we already have 3,100 and then potentially more with NDSU. So we just want to shine a light on that. And then the traffic issue, I'm not convinced there's any of the four proposals that aren't going to have traffic issues when you have a large volume of people out there. But Then maybe the question, the second part of that question is you know, well, how does our project differentiate from the other ones? You add, as I opened with, is that you're talking 110,000 square feet to the south side. The Fargo Dome is, just for sake of discussion, it's not quite there, but it's roughly 200,000 square feet. You're going to have a facility with 300,000 square feet. Now, that's not all usable space, roughly half of it is. Dream of the events that you can bring to Fargo with almost $150,000 of space. I think that's a huge differentiator of what we bring to the table for the city of Fargo. And the management team that is at the Fargo Dome, they've been doing it for 30-some-odd years. They know how to run the events, and the scheduling, and all that stuff is important, but you still have to operate the facility. And you have a lot of equipment that is at the Fargo Dome right now that doesn't need to be repurchased, or stuff that is purchased can be used with the Fargo Dome stuff that we have right now. So I think that's two big wins that we have going for us at the, and that'll conclude my speed dating.
Just going to add to that, Dave, if I could. You talked about the staff. I'm not sure if any of your finalists have brought this in, but most of the presenters, the initial presenters, actually talked about having some type of management firm involved, a management company involved. And, you know, Fargo Dome had that at one point in time, and we brought all that inside to the city of Fargo, at the Fargo Dome, and the city of Fargo. And Rob, maybe just briefly just touch on, what's the cost of the additional management group beyond salaries? I know we talked about this.
Everything's negotiable, but it's definitely more than not having one. I think they've talked about it, but I do believe it is the a few of these other proposals have great staff in place as well, and they do wonderful work. The Fargo Dome management team, my coworkers, have been doing this for 30, 35 years on an adaptability. You know, they've taken an 18,000 seat football stadium, and at times had, back in the day when Microsoft Stampede was going on, and created a way to create the 5,000 seat carpeted, curtained area with the trade show. Marketplace for Kids, where we had the theater set up and 100 booths around it. Our food and beverage team right now, our director of food and beverage has 20 years experience in 10 years at Fargo Dome and an additional 10 at a conference center, convention center in northern Iowa. Our operations team has done amazing things in that building to change it over and adapt to those things. And it does come down to that team is only going to be further enhanced with another group, another segment of people that would come in and know how to adapt to any situation to make it work. But as is combined with this 50,000 square foot room with 14,000 square feet of existing meeting room space, an additional 6,000 to 8,000 square feet, the Fargo Dome floor at 80,000 square feet, or 18,000 seats, or a basketball set, hopefully eventually likely attached to the Shack, another 5,500 seat area right across the street, the wrestling place. We know how important wrestling is to the city of Fargo, the state of North Dakota, as far as the definite visitor spending that happens surrounding 3 or 4 of those major events. You will have a facility, square footage-wise, that really will rival some of the largest population bases in the country. And I just go back to the adaptability in the 90s. I don't think when Fargo Dome was built, if the CVB at the time even really imagined the National Goldwing Conference coming, motorcycle in the middle of July, but we had that space and we had the staff that could adjust to that. So that's to me is exciting. It's a challenge. There's logistics on there, but it's also exciting and I think a great advantage that the city of Fargo would have.
I don't think you have to worry about the imagination of Visit Fargo Moorhead.
I've had conversations.
You know,
I don't think that's going to be a problem at all.
You know, we're not going to go back on the history of that, but I feel like we've talked about that in the past, using it for other things.
So just carrying on to answer the rest of the question, if I might. Oh, yeah. So part of the advantage is, and it's been brought up earlier, we're part of the city of Fargo. And if there's any profits, it's not going outside the city of Fargo, it's staying within the city of Fargo to basically pay for the improvements to the convention center. It's not, there's not a profit being siphoned off by a developer or by a management group, that type of thing. So that money stays in the city of Fargo to maintain this building. We are also 100% in favor of the idea that of the lodging tax proceeds, a portion of that's being held back by the city of Fargo to pay for those improvements, just like we do with the Fargo Dome. Find an example of what happens when you're able to maintain some of the funds within the project. You have funds available to do enhancements and improvements and expansions. The last thing I'm going to talk to perhaps is the fact that on the financing, I think a lot of people have asked about how much is available for the financing. It's been the 40 million, and there's the holdback, and so we took a look at that, and I'll just throw this out there. We've looked at the fact that the financing is only 20 years, some people like it 25. There's issues having it 25. One of our thoughts, and we're going to run this, we had a quick conversation with Susan at the city, is that one of the reasons you're limited is you basically are financing the debt service reserve out of the bond proceeds. It's about $5 million. One of our thoughts is that you don't fund DSR out of the proceeds, you fund it with existing city funds, cash, that we have available to do that. We could extend the bond payback, we believe, because it's kind of a better rating. You get $5 million of equity into it, it's not all borrowed money, and we could probably come out with a better, at least as good a deal of 25 years as we could with 20.
Okay, well, let's, I hope we see those things in the second round RFP. That'd be helpful, because financials are going to be very important in that, correct? So I have one other question. We kind of dealt with this on the south side, and we've got like 3 or 4 minutes left. So you started at 117, by the way. I wrote it down. So how are you talk about using the surplus to enhance all of this, and we're talking about the south side, but everyone knows that you still have lots of issues you have to deal with. You don't have enough bathrooms, your concourses are too narrow, you don't have a big enough lobby on the west side. How are you going to address those things going forward if you get this project? And
Well,
3 minutes, okay.
Yeah, 3 minutes. I mean, there are things that have to be done.
I mean, I ask this because I think, everyone has that question.
Yeah,
You've asked for money twice to do it, and we know these are needs that you have, so how are you going to address that over and above what's happening if you were to get this project?
Right, yeah. Back that up like one step is the renovation that we looked at in the vote that went through in November of '24 would have thrown roughly $90 million at the Fargo Dome for everything we want to do. We have $47 million in the permanent fund. That doesn't get us close to what we would like to do at the Fargo Dome as a whole. So, as far as the bathroom situation and the building out the concourse, those are a step above, minor projects. They're, mid-level projects that take a lot of funds. So what we're looking at right now on our end is we're looking at what are the things that we can do that are impactful today. For example, we're looking at redoing the lighting throughout the Fargo Dome. That's a 7-figure project that we're looking out there, doing the concrete on the outside over there. So we do still have to maintain it, but we can't, with the dollar amounts that we have, with $47 million and potentially using some of the funds up here for the mutual benefit of the convention center and the Fargo Dome, which would be good, we don't have, the $47 million isn't enough to do anything major what we tried to chase down when we went to the renovation. So we will manage it, of course, manage it diligently, but as far as any major projects coming to the Fargo Dome, that would have to come in the form of another sales tax vote to really impact that.
So, okay, but 45 million is half of 90 million.
Yeah.
So you can take like 35, I mean, you know what I'm saying. I mean, you could do something with.
Yeah, we will be doing things. You'll see some things at the Fargo Dome relevant if the convention center comes on board or not. We still have to do the work there.
Okay, well, I just wanted to get that out on the table, because I think people have that question after the two failed ballots, yeah.
Charlie, what they're looking at, the drawings up there will show is, it will address it'll be adding bathrooms, it'll address some of the congestion, particularly on the east-south sides. Working with RLE on the master planning, we are looking at the west side as far as what can be done. Maybe it's not going to be to the level of finish of the pretty pictures that were put out in '23, but there are things that can be done. So there is definitely dollars available for different projects that affect the accessible seating and things such as that. But I think it is fair to say that the authority will be working with the city to maybe identify future sources of revenue, whatever that number is, to be able to address some of those other things that this project would not hinder.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your candor and your answers to all our questions. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll bring our second project up for today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, in the interest of time, we're going to get going. So I think you all know who we are. Could you guys just quickly introduce yourselves again, including you have 2 people online? Austin, take it away. Microphone. Don't forget the microphone.
There we go. I need a confidence monitor here. I'm Austin Morris with Enclave Development.
John Crum with Metro Sports Foundation.
And Steve Martidan with Brandt Hospitality Group.
Okay. Oh, and the guys online, yeah, sorry.
Rob Swedberg with TVS.
And this is Paul McKeever with TVS.
Okay, thanks, guys. Welcome back. We appreciate you coming to do this with us as we move forward through the second half of our process. We're going to give you a few minutes if you want to bring a few things up, tell us about any big changes you may have made or not made, and then we'll do some question and answer. And you can ask us questions too, of course.
Okay. And I'll try and keep this presentation a little briefer than the last one, since it's somewhat of a repeat, and try and highlight items that may have not been highlighted last time or were gleaned since our last presentation. We're excited to present to you guys, again, have the opportunity to share with you our vision for a centrally located convention center with all the operational efficiencies that we gain from being immediately next to and adjoined to the Shields Arena, along with our plans for the hotel and all the enhanced retail amenities, master plan development within the Urban Plains neighborhood. And we thought about this when we started assembling the team. We really thought about, does this make sense? Can we fit it? What can we fit for parking within adjacency that makes sense? What operational efficiencies are gained from the Shields Arena? And how can we do this right for the community? So 30 years, 50 years, and beyond. We have a fantastic convention center that's centrally located. So I'll continue and try to stop talking so much. How do I do that? There we go. Okay, this shares similar to what I recently shared, and the images are representative of our last presentation. We have Shields Arena as a partner, and Brandt Hospitality as a partner on the hotel. And the design was done by TVS, and Rob's on to explain that. You guys are all familiar with the location. One item that I like to highlight on the location is if you left this, and as you know from HVS study as well as research with convention center consultants, our market will be a drive-in convention center market. So when we did extensive research, we toured 3 facilities and interviewed multiple others, including Resch and Overland Park and St. Cloud, and interviewed a couple more. They all said that a market like us will attract drive-in 85% of the time, maybe more, and semi-regional, regional, and from a national perspective, there probably won't be a national convention in Fargo, and that's from all 5 we surveyed. So we looked at this and we thought, this location from a drive-in perspective is perfect. As Fargo grows south, we are equidistant from all the amenities Fargo has to offer, including downtown, including Kingpins, Sweet Shots, et cetera. And long-term, that's going to be a big win for Fargo.
And one thing he's going to touch on here right now, I think important to note is the proximity to both interstates. I don't want to overlook that. I think we're one of the unique sites that have connection to both, not just one. Being at Shields Arena for the last 15 years, that's became a win. Our egress and egress is pretty simple to manage. There's multiple ways to get in and out of that property and quickly to interstate, which reiterates the regional approach to what the convention center more than likely will become is these people are coming in from hopefully the Twin Cities, the Dakotas, Montana and other places that they'll be coming to our location via interstate.
And one thing, since we have Sanford Health on this slide, that John mentioned to me after, as he manages tons of events at the Shields Arena, one common question today that is asked by event planners across the nation and region is, how far away is the nearest hospital? And I think that's important to note, because we have one about a mile away north. You can see the amenities. You guys are familiar with all the amenities. We have a nice slide that denotes traffic. So we are very fortunate to have a site in this location where even the, call it inner nodes of traffic possibilities within urban plains and north of urban plains. We also have Veterans, 32nd, 45th, 2 ways to I-94, and another way 1.6 miles from I-29. So we have a lot of easy ways to explore our entire city. From a site control perspective, we're fortunate with Brant that we have site control, and John's visited with the Park District. He can touch a little bit on that, but we are super fortunate from a budget efficiency perspective, not only with the site control that we have, but the value on that site control. We aren't buying new land somewhere that's owned by investors expecting a high rate of return. We have site control within B on the existing Shields Arena lot, A, and then Brant owns 1 and 5. We have an existing parking lot that can be shared with the convention center, so from an infrastructure standpoint, and this development is relatively new. So all the infrastructure is, I could call it brand new, that's probably an overstatement, but it's all new. It's all within the last 10 years. And the retention, most of it's been taken care of. We're not adding much impervious. So from an advantage standpoint, I think this site warrants a value proposition, a unique value proposition for the city.
Well, let's go back. And just to touch on that Park District piece and where we have this presented, because last time we were here, that was one of the questions on, has there been the discussion with the Park District? Do we have agreement with the Park District? I am slated to meet with them on November 19th, because to start, it was hard to get any agreement unless we move to phase 2. Now that we're into phase 2, we plan on working with them to see, do they have concerns? What issues would they have from that land standpoint? Metro Sports is a long-term land lease with them, but we are going to have to work with them, and I don't see any major challenges there, but that'll be something we'll be doing over the course of the next time, and hopefully we come back, we'll have that secured. But there was also a discussion about West Fargo School District, and get some clarification there. Where we're proposing to build the convention center is on Park District land. They do not pay property tax, thus there would be no benefit to the West Fargo School District. I think there were some questions about that. So to me, that shouldn't be a major player here because we aren't going to be paying that property tax on the convention center. So whether it's here or downtown or the Fargo Dome or Bruhala, that kind of keeps that playing field even.
But just for clarity, the development that would take place in and around this area is West Fargo School District, correct? Private development? Okay.
Correct. That's West Fargo School District.
And noted here 5, is that where the Science Museum was slated, or is that someplace different?
Part of Lot 5.
Yep. So it'd be the western portion of Lot 5?
Western portion, okay.
In the past couple of weeks, we had an opportunity to meet with them. One, they're excited about the opportunity to see a convention center. We see this being a win because they're going to have some flex space, 7,500 square feet of exhibit space that they could use for mixers, pre-post conventions. They see that this could become a real destination for people that would be able to spend the night, utilize the hotel. So although it would be another chunk of land that would be taken up, I see it as a win-win. It becomes this really unique development that Fargo can be proud of.
Yeah, go ahead. We're going to jump in with questions here.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
totally-
really
yeah,
what
is
we're
that
here
okay?
for, so.
The Science Museum locates there in part of 5. This project goes forward. Could you talk about the parking needs, availability, thoughts, if any, of the need for a parking garage, things of that nature?
Yeah, and I think if Rob is on here, he probably has the accurate parking counts at hand, but we can share that we did evaluate parking for both the convention center and Shields Arena and Science Museum. when we looked at, when we placed the parking and expanded the parking on Lot 5, and then we added parking lot number 1 and expanded the parking around the existing Shields Arena and where the hotel is situated on Lot 4. I wonder if Rob has those counts handy, but essentially, yeah.
Yeah, on the lot 5, we're showing 1,065 cars on A 200, and then another 180 around the balance of the Shields Arena, and then additional cars on adjacent street parking and sites.
So how much do you give up with this? Is that after the Science Museum is built or before?
That's with the Science Museum on Lot 5, so that's assuming the science agreement. And
But you also anticipate some more development on that Lot 5, right? Isn't that ultimately the plan?
Yes, there is potential for development. All of Urban Plains from the existent has been a cross easement parking development. And I would anticipate that'll continue as the Quarter Pie develops, if Lot 5 develops. We'll continue to push for that, even behind the building to the north, for example, the YMCA daycare. We have a cross easement parking for nights and weekends in that lot. And we do that's Lot A as a cross easement parking with the family wellness. It's really about putting the businesses that complement what we do. Mainly, we're nights and weekends, where you'll see with a convention would be that midweek convention time, but the car count is low, and we're not doing a lot of midweek events as a major Shields Arena. Most of those are nights and weekends. So that'll be something we'll continue to work with city planning, just like we have in the previous 15 years.
Yeah, I think what everybody's trying to anticipate is there some point where you're going, if the project were to go there, at what point are you going to come back to the city and say you need some help building a parking garage? That's what everybody wants to know, right? So,
Hard to answer today. I hope we get to that point because of density and all the different activities, and we say, hey, it makes sense to have a parking ramp here, similar to downtown or like
but
at the
the Science Museum itself wouldn't trigger the need for a parking ramp based on your estimations?
Not based on current count, no.
Okay.
And then we have cross-access easements within the Quarter Pie. Some are already agreed to, and then when we negotiate with new tenants, new users, we're also trying to get within that cross-access parking so that night, evening, off times from those tenants that we can have shared parking. The design of that through road from a private road standpoint along there also has parking along it.
Okay, other questions? Emma?
Something that could be interesting, similar to the Fargo Dome. Love myself a good Fargo Force game. What a delightful time.
We play tonight, for the record, if you'd like to come out.
What a good way to spend a Halloween. Seeing a timeline of anticipation of like the convention center versus maybe some of your like regularly scheduled events could be interesting. I really appreciated how thorough your proposal was. It made it very easy to read through and compare and contrast with the rubric that we provided.
So to clarify, your questions of other events compared to the convention event?
Yes, what you anticipate the timeline looking like for, because conventions are mostly during the day.
Yeah.
So I think being able to provide to the committee an understanding of like how you see traffic flowing through the space. While events are setting up at the same time, what is the actual operation of like the event happening? There might not be as much convention center activity during the day or during the evening when the space is generally occupied for other programming.
Yeah, the spaces will be designed to operate independently, and we currently do that. We will run a high school hockey game while we're prepping for a concert or another event. You're going to see it here very shortly. Pride of Dakota is going to come in. They're going to do their prep Wednesday, Thursday, the event's Friday, Saturday. We'll continue to operate our second sheet, and we'll continue to, that'll be a seamless and very minor transition. I think the other part that we envision, and similar to the Fargo Dome, conventions are going to be booked far enough out. We envision working with the CVB. They're going to get that 18-month and beyond. We control all the scheduling for the Fargo Force and other events, so we will fill in the gaps on where there's not conventions. I think that becomes a win because you're not having two different parties trying to book the same space. We're proposing it's all under Metro Sports Foundation, and then we work with the CVB to continue to fill this space up ongoing. Farmers Union, there's quite a bit of flexibility on that second sheet. I mean, our goal would be to have more full events that are filling both sheets of ice, plus the convention center, that large-scale piece. But I don't see any concern of doing a convention on one side, doing a hockey game on another, having youth practices run in the middle. I don't see that being a major issue at all.
And we talked about that using the Farmers Union for exhibit space, but Mallory, you were at their pre-development meeting. Didn't the question come up about that?
Yeah, sorry. Hot mic there. So one of my notes was that between the Shields Arena and the Farmers Union sheet of ice, that the capacity is set already, and that there would be some concern about additional construction if needed for more fire exits. How does that play if you're, more people, you're going to seat more people closer together in a convention than you would at a hockey game? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Or are you going to deal with it? That's the question.
Had that major concern. What they're looking at is if you were trying to put a condensed amount of people on the main floor, those capacities are set. There'd be additional construction needed in the main building if you wanted to expand that to, say, 3,000 people. But that building's set for 7,000 people. It's just how many can go on the arena floor versus in the seating. And then even on the second sheet, it's 1,500 people on the arena floor, which if you start putting chairs and other things, you don't exceed that. You would have to have standing room only to exceed those capacities.
Dave, you had a question?
Yeah, just to follow up, I think it'd be good to have like a hypothetical calendar, just to show how hockey fits in and concerts, and how it would fit in with the proposed, with conventions, how that would all work. I think that'd be good. The other thing.
Also from the Fargo Dome then, too, probably would be.
Kind of the same thing,
A
just.
hypothetical calendar, sure, yeah.
Well, I think that'd be a great approach, that if the CVB could send over, hey, here are X amount of dates, we want all four parties to now blend a calendar and what it looks like, whether it's Brew Hollow, whether it's downtown, Fargo Dome, or us, and we could show what the next year or two would look like.
And just one more, if you could talk about how your current staff is now, and obviously with more square footage, this is similar to the Fargo Dome. It's kind of neat you're both here today because you're kind of different flavors, but the additional staff that you'll need, how that will be managed, if you wouldn't mind talking about that, and the management, how it would work with the CVB, I think that'd be good. Thank you.
And to be clear, you're not talking about hiring a management company. You're going to continue managing it with the Metro Sports Foundation and your current staff, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's a condition of our proposal. Very similar to what you heard of the Fargo Dome. We've been operating for 17 years now. The nice part, and I would say for both of us, you're going to see a ramp up. There's very little staffing needed in probably years 1 and year 2 when maybe the business isn't where you want it to be. Really, it takes to the year 3, 4, 5 where you start ramping that up. You will need probably designated director of sales, because that is different. You heard that from Rob. That's a different sales approach, a marketing approach, than it is for us to do other events. Talking to our consultant, Ken, who is out in Green Bay, we would recommend meeting every 2 weeks with the CVB, joining them at conferences. How do you sell the space together? So now it's not about who's scheduling. It's, hey, these are the things we want to go after. We're currently doing it and have it set up to do it quarterly now. I just see that ramping up, and it's going to be step and step along the way, and how do we benefit both the community, the convention center, Shields Arena. I think the bigger challenge we see, and we're going to have to dive into, is how do you balance the financials of the convention center, knowing we're going to probably be attracting large-scale events, not wanting to charge them rent because it's an economic driver to the hotel business, and we're going to have that understanding in that agreement, and we're going to have to be flexible to discount those rents to get the large-scale events. That's where we're going to have to get into those discussions to make it successful. Does that answer your question?
Can I just add one more about the hotel? Can you, and I don't know if you have a picture of yours, but the food service, is it in your vision that the food service would be in the hotel or in the Shields Arena? And can you just talk a little bit about that?
Well, I would say it's going to be in Shields Arena, that we would manage the food service amongst Shields Arena and the convention center.
But then, to give you an example, so then would that food service probably serve the hotel as well, or would that be a separate entity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve?
So there's been some questions on the hotel side as far as full service, and I understand the desire to have a full service hotel, but what you're going after is a certain feeling for the incoming guest. So what we've focused on is what Marriott and Hilton call their lifestyle brands. Their lifestyle brands are upscale properties. They're high design. It's elevated, activated food and beverage. It's kind of financially prudent and aligned with what you're looking for the convention center. And then if you look at just the sheer cost of it, a full-service hotel at 175 keys is going to be, roughly 130,000 square feet. On the lifestyle brands, it's about 97,000 square feet. So you shrink your footprint, you shrink your development costs, your ongoing operational costs, and you'll improve your profit margin by about 15 points. So it just makes sense. The last thing you want to do is have a conference center that's tied to a hotel that doesn't succeed. So you need a successful hotel, and that's why we focused on the lifestyle brands like Hilton's Tempo or Marriott's AC.
Okay.
Can I ask one more? I apologize.
yeah.
Just a follow-up. So the tax incentives, just the potential of that, do you foresee that, like with the hotel? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I can touch on that. So in the end, we want the best hotel that we possibly can get here, and that's Steve's leadership on what flags can we attract in this location, and the upper upscale comment that Charlie made, that's what we want. From a pilot perspective, which I mentioned in the prior thing, if that needed a pilot, from a financial perspective, we're still paying tax on the land where the hotel would be situated. So the city's not out what they're already getting. If it needed a pilot, I would say that would be the third-party study process. So the city can feel good about that. We're not going to ask for a pilot if we don't need one. If we need one, order the third-party study, have them determine the gap. And then I was visiting with Steve about, in order to get a partner to fund the hotel, we need a minimum rate of return. Now, we're not looking to make an outsized return if the hotel surprises us earlier. So when we were talking about it, if we needed a pilot, and we received a pilot, that we would be transparent from a financials perspective, where if the hotel, because as we know, the convention center takes a ramp-up period, so the hotel at first may not do what it's supposed to do for the first 2-3 years. If we outsize or overachieve pro forma on the hotel, we want to be transparent about that and have the pilot, if one's needed, be incrementally reduced on a pro rata basis to accomplish the return parameters that any partner would expect. I just don't want to promise that there isn't one. That's one thing about this that I want to be clear is be careful with words because I want this to be successful and I want to be very transparent and maintain our collective reputation with the city.
So my question on that would be, and this can be when you deliver your second presentation off the second RFP, is sort of to the point of the hotel. Is it open day one in your imagination? Is it open 6 months prior? Obviously, everything we do as a bureau is not just for this, it's for the entire city. So bring other events that could use those hotel rooms as well. We could use more with USA Wrestling as we speak, for instance. So and as we look at bringing other large events, not just for this, but other places. So I'm assuming that you would deliver this hotel to open at the same time. So not for today, but that's, I think, what we're thinking, obviously. It does take time to ramp. That's why, in my mind, the minute we pick a partner, put a shovel in the ground, we're out marketing immediately because those RFPs are happening for 2030, 2031 right now, and in order to do that. So our goal would be to help fill those rooms, even if it's with something else potentially as well.
Yeah, and our thoughts are that the construction on the conference center is going to take longer than the hotel, so we can absolutely time the hotel to open in line with the conference center, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, can we talk a little bit about traffic flow? Could you have a drawing that, indoor, inside the facility, so we
Oh,
can
yeah.
see the layout of the facility?
Let's see, right there.
Okay, so the hotel is on the east side of the Shields Arena, right? And then the convention space is on the west side attached to the Farmers Union box, right? Okay.
Yes.
So tell us about traffic flow from the hotel to the conference space and how that might relate to during a game. Because we assume there are going to be some times when there are going to be a conference going on and also a hockey game.
Yep, let's assume most of the time that's happening.
Yeah.
Then we all did our jobs well.
Yeah, so
that
traffic
green
flow is what we're looking at here.
Is a
outwards.
covered walkway is the idea, is that there'd be a covered walkway that connects the hotel to the atrium, which is kind of the entrance to Shields Arena. It could be an entrance to the convention center, but it has that connectivity. So you could
You're
then
saying
go into,
covered but not enclosed?
to be determined.
Yeah, that's how it's.
We
designed
heard
as
some
covered, right?
feedback in one of the meetings that it needs to be enclosed.
Yeah.
So that's
There-
where the
there you go then.
connectivity is. And what you'll see here, if you look at the pre-function space, that actually flows in front of all and connects them. So you really have the ability to go into Farmers at any, right there, you can go into the main building, or you can go into the convention center, or you can split all three and operate independently. So I think the flow, Charlie, to your question, would be quite smooth, and then it's fed with a back hallway from a catering standpoint and some flex space to load in, load out while events are happening.
But the primary entry to the Shields Arena now is, if I remember correctly, is on the south side, right?
At the atrium, yep.
Yep, so you're putting your, okay. Okay, that's the atrium, that's the entryway. All right,
Yep,
got
if
it.
you
So-
look by where number 10 is, that's the current entrance to Shields Arena. So that's where you do
Yeah.
your ticketing, and that's where if
So-
you had a concert or a.
So there is a
sports event,
place,
that's
so
where
there is a
they're
place
going.
where your conference people walking from the hotel to the convention space would be crossing paths with people going into the hockey game. I mean,
Correct.
I'm not saying that's bad, but.
Nope. And
Just
I
to
would
be clear
anticipate-
that's how that's going to work.
Correct,
Okay. Yeah.
So
Enclosed would be better.
correct. We
Yeah.
have that note.
And so the hotel's on that southeast corner, right? Is that
Yes.
correct? Yeah, and so that green area, is that where you're thinking the covered?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
But when we met with the Science Museum, they also quickly said, how do we connect the Science Museum to the convention center if these both happen? We'd like that connectivity too, because from classroom setups, from school activities, how do you leverage? So I think there's some more development that'll continue to play out through the second phase.
Personally,
Can I ask a question? Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Do you see potential of having a skyway between the Science Museum and a connection between the two?
Too early, but that would be one of their comments of how could you connect the two?
That's all right. Connectivity is obviously a very, very big, important thing for people who are, going back and forth from your hotel room to the convention center, even to the Science Museum. I think that's a great idea. Specifically, talking about this site in general, from our pre-development planning meeting, there was some comments made about water lines, the access to 32nd Avenue. What sort of ideas or thoughts do you have based on some of those issues with the site, I guess?
Was it about a drain?
It was stormwater drain was one of them. The water main that runs between the sports bubble and the arena. It says it comes off of the 30th or 31st Avenue. I don't know if that's notated on that map. For water and sanitary sewer, but it's a smaller pipe that wasn't designed for this large of a public use space. That was just something that stood out to me as a major concern if it's, getting water and sewer drainage to this specific spot. It's the size of the pipe. Yeah, they would have to.
You'd have to upsize, it looks like we'd have to upsize from a 6-inch to an 8-inch service.
Okay.
So, but all the items from the planning meeting were, call it tiny nuisances, not big, expensive challenges. So when we had that meeting, we were very happy with, in the end result was all of these are
Something
able
you
to be
can
accomplished.
fix. Okay.
And fortunately, nothing came out that was surprising or unusual or something that would be expensive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you give us a bigger view of the hotel? Because we really can't see it there.
I don't know if we have, we had a rendering with showing a view. There's it in the background. Rob, do you have any other views of that?
Unless you can zoom in on the plan, we didn't have a larger scale plan in here.
Okay, let me just go back to the one that at least shows that far on the distance hotel. It's not
That's the
that far.
hotel, yeah, it's 6 stories you're planning, Steve?
Yeah, 6 stories.
Okay, and then, and to go back a little bit to what you said before, whatever level of hotel is, you are planning a bar and restaurant.
Yeah, you know, the elevated F&B, it's actually a very active bar and restaurant. It's beverage focused with kind of a, you know, trendy lighter bites. It's, so you can eat in the restaurant, but you're not necessarily, if you are, you're choosing to eat there. You're not really competing with the restaurants around you, you know? It's just it's a fantastic model. We have a Marriott AC in our portfolio now, and it plays really well, and an AC or Tempo here would deliver the experience that you're looking for without question.
And I don't remember, is there meeting rooms in that property?
Yeah, so you have a little more flexibility with that one. You do have meeting space, but full service is going to require that you have significant meeting space, and that'll compete with the conference center. Here, you've got more, maybe one larger meeting room, a couple of board rooms, but you really there complement the
Yeah.
convention space.
So board could have a meeting, still have breakfast, lunch, all the things.
Correct. And the lifestyle brands also have flexibility where lunch in full service is typically a loss leader. And in these brands, when the facility's busy, you can open lunch and you can offer lunch, and there's other times you just can choose not to offer lunch
Sure.
when it doesn't make sense.
Got it.
Mayor?
So a lot of times we like to have the convention center directly attached to the hotel. Was there a reason why you couldn't put the hotel right next to the convention center?
Just from a design standpoint, and then, so there's a design consideration for where we would place the convention center in relation to the Shields Arena. And we went through dozens of iterations with TVS, including where the, call it south parking lot is, and how we encroached on the Family Wellness Center, and could we fit it where the hotel is on the east side? And what we learned through those efforts and multiple studies was, one, if we put the convention center to the east of the Shields Arena, it became longer linear. And even if we encroached on the parking, because I considered that as an option, we have diagonal parking all along that wide street, there'd probably be an option to encroach on it. Even when we did that, from a functionality of convention center and use case for flexibility of event types, it just became clear that if we came to you guys with a convention center that would certainly function well, but it wouldn't have the same flexibility that the shape that we came up with would.
So Austin, if you go back to the kind of where each of these properties, the convention center, the hotel, obviously you just explained why the convention center is best where it is. I think to the mayor's question, is there any option to have the hotel closer to the convention center?
Your
Without moving the
challenge
convention
gets
center.
into
Yes.
land control, who controls that land right now. If you're looking where it says 200 cars, that's not controlled by us, it's not controlled by Brandt. You'd now be getting into a discussion with Family Wellness. Sanford has the bubble, that's a separate land control piece. You know, we did explore a little bit, is there a way, could you get it down by the Science Museum, attach it to the Science Museum and connect it that way? You know, that, again, it's just, you're bringing another player in. Not saying we couldn't have these discussions as we get through phase 2 and if we are selected, but today, that's why we placed it where it was. It allowed us the control to say, okay, this does work.
I do feel like it's an advantage at some point to be positioned next to the Urban Plains Park. I think from a user experience, that has to be a bit pleasant to be next to a green space versus looking out at a parking lot and the side of Family Wellness.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think that is an added feature for the convention center goers in their hotel. And then also, when you look at the distance between, it really is about, call it 3 to 4 depths of walking. If you compare it to the parking, it's like 3 or 4 of those. So it's like you park 7 stalls in at a grocery store and walk into Hornbacher, so it's not that far away. And with the covered walkway, to your point on enclosed, I think we can explore further opportunities, because there's covered walkways that have heat integrated in them, even though they're not fully enclosed. And there are some clever designs that people have come up with. Hopefully people in North Dakota and South Dakota, though, are also used to weather at some point, but we'll explore those options.
The
Well, we're
hope is
hoping some of them
that,
come
that
from
people
farther
come
away than
from
North Dakota and
other
South
places.
Dakota, right? That's,
So yes.
you may think that's a pipe dream, but we don't.
No, we have a list. We're already starting a list.
Yeah. Okay, other questions? I'm looking at the list here. I think we've covered a lot of the stuff. Someone asked, does the hotel have a designated drop-off entrance space? We haven't really discussed that. Where would that be? On the south side again, looks like?
Wonder if we have a plan.
I don't think.
I don't think we have that plan here today.
Right.
Okay.
But yes, that would have, I mean,
Yeah.
almost all hotels would have to have some sort of designated drop-off.
Yeah, okay. And so and then the restaurant, Steve, you talked about, it's a Small Bites restaurant, but what if someone wanted to come there and eat there? I mean, will it have its own entrance, public-facing entrance if somebody wanted to come in there who wasn't at a convention or staying at the hotel?
Yeah, and in both of these brands, entrance is through the lobby. So it's not a separate, it's really not designed to pull people in from the outside. It's really designed to serve the guests that are there.
Okay, fair.
But one other thing to note, in discussion with the Science Museum, they're also talking about a cafe and a coffee shop, which then we said, well, that's good to know. We might not want a cafe, coffee shop in the convention center. The hotel has one, they have one. That's a lot of flex space for people to go to during break time.
Hotels that are competing with surrounding restaurants typically don't do really well in F&B. And so you give the guests what they want. You make sure they have a great experience, and you don't necessarily try to compete with the restaurants around you.
Okay, good answer. Okay, other questions? Do you have questions for us, by the way? We're happy to entertain anything that we think we can answer.
There's just one more that was listed on this sheet, Charlie, that I might mention. That's regarding the proposal of 1.5 to 5 million in upfront naming right control. If the team is unable to secure the naming right deal and tiered sponsorships that meet a predetermined minimum threshold, what's the contingency on that? What is your plan to cover that gap?
From a naming rights or funding, that's just a proposal that if you were to go out and sell the naming rights, what would be the value that we feel you could achieve? That's what that was referencing to. There might be a discussion with this group that says, hey, we'd prefer to keep it as Fargo Convention Center, similar to the Fargo Dome. I think from my standpoint and how this building's been operated, meaning Shields Arena, we're not publicly funded. We've really explored ways to drive sponsorship. So we would lobby to say, let's go out to the market and see, could we sell that naming rights to continue to help with either construction funding or ongoing operations?
Okay, thanks.
I don't think I have any. I just want to emphasize, though, when Fargo grows, 50 years from now, this is the center of town. And we're working really hard on the Quarter Pie right now. We have a restaurant under contract to perform and build a new restaurant in the Quarter Pie. And we're working on another large project in the back of the Quarter Pie. So we're well on our way to fulfill the vision that I think we've fulfilled on, call it north of the Quarter Pie, to create a nice mixed-use destination for both Fargo and convention center goers.
Okay.
So Austin, maybe to that point, what does the expansion opportunity look like if the convention center now needs to go upwards of 50,000 square feet?
Yep, get bigger. TVS did a study on that. I'll let Rob speak to that. How big were we able to make it?
Yeah, you could expand that room by about 50%, so there's about another 25,000 square feet of space. Or instead of an expansion of that room, you could extend the corridor and make it more like a ballroom, dedicated ballroom instead of a flex ballroom, which is probably where your market would want you to go. So it gives you a lot of flexibility up there to expand in the future.
You're talking about that number 14 on the north side of the...
Yes, the 14 on the north side.
Okay. And that's about another 25,000? 20, 25?
About another 25,000 square feet, yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Anything else? So we hope to, for all of the people involved, we hope to get the second round out. We are on the commission agenda for November 10th to have them approve the second round RFP, which we will completely finalize next Friday. That's what we'll be doing next week, committee. Joe?
And maybe it's just my questions, but,
I'm sorry, I thought we were done. I'm sorry. Oh.
yeah. You guys know what the question's gonna be, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What keeps you up at night on this?
What?
And what differentiates you?
And what challenge do we foresee?
Oh, goodness. I would say all of the participants in this RFP process and the 4 that we're working with, or you guys are working with now, have the same challenges. And that's where I want to probably just level set from an alignment perspective that it doesn't matter where this goes. There is a budget challenge that we have to succeed with your help as partners. We looked at the TIF run from a budgetary perspective, and the TIF run is very conservative, so there's probably some opportunity there. But when we look at the attributes from that perspective, so to your point of what keeps you up at night, we look at the attributes of this site compared to other opportunities. We have some distinct advantages from a land control perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, from the relationship with the park district, and for operational efficiencies. So from attainment of the lowest budget possible while achieving the city's goals, I think we have a fantastic opportunity to do that at a level that would be highly competitive.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Very interesting. We appreciate it. We look forward to the second round. We hopefully will have that to you by November 11th or 12th. That'll be available, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. We are adjourned.